Hey, we're live on air. Hi, everybody. We're back.
Hey, are we
Yep.
recording?
We're record. Oh no, we're not. Ah,
Recording in progress.
now we are.
Yay! That's
thank
what I'm
thank
here for.
thank you, Lorraine. Like a true modern Loki. You take the chaos and you form it into organized chaos. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Lorraine Key.
Anytime, Bo Key.
This broadcast is brought to us by Kroger Purified Drinking Water because it's what I've got, and it is good to drink water, and not just
It
water.
is very good to drink water.
All right, let's hop into it. I just realized since this is the epilogue, I didn't have like the traditional show notes up, so I don't have our traditional intro. Let's see if I can do it from memory. Here we go.
Oh,
Broadcasting glorious purpose across the interdimensional airwaves. I'm a Loki variant with numbers and letters.
and I'm Lorraine, Loki variant RVJM91.
Oh, and I'm Bo. I should have probably also mentioned my name too. Hey, everybody! But it's the epilogue. Nobody listens to the epilogue for the first time. No, like this should not be anybody's first episode of the
Yeah,
podcast. That would be crazy.
you know us. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's the epilogue. The multiverse is saved. So that's all great. But we were sitting back, over the holidays, we're kicking back and enjoying some fun, some family, some food, and all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in the mind of one Lorraine, co-host of Loki TV Talk and creator of Taylor Watch. Something occurred to her, a glaring misstep, because as you recall on our final episode of the Loki TV Talk podcast, we had to kind of come up with basically nothing for the final Taylor Watch, which was rough because Taylor Watch has been such a beloved feature of the short-lived Loki TV Talk podcast series, and yet it seemed at that time there was no real legit Taylor Swift reference that could be used, except there was. And that's going to bring us to the most important and the reason we came back for an epilogue episode, Taylor Watch. Lorraine.
Yes, I just want to go ahead and apologize to all the listeners out there for my just glaring omission of an extremely obvious Taylor Watch that happened in the season/series finale. I watched it twice and I missed it both times. And I just want to say I have failed you all. And I'm here to set the record straight.
Wow.
In the season finale, he who remains is talking to Loki. And Loki keeps, trying to redo the scene with Sylvie. He's talking to He Who Remains. He's getting frustrated. And He Who Remains says to him, "Shake it off." And as we who know a lot about Miss Taylor Swift, Dr. Taylor Swift,
Wow.
her number one Billboard charting song is called "Shake It Off."
Wow.
It
Even I
was
know
the
that.
most it was the most obvious Taylor Swift reference we have seen all season. And I just want to apologize, and I just want you all to know that there was a true Taylor Watch in the finale.
Wow. Lorraine, on behalf of the millions of Swifties who have written into the show because of the atrocity that was this misstep on your part, your fan credit, your Swiftie credit score, it's not been totally revoked, but let's just say you've got a lot of work to do.
I mean, I did get my Spotify Wrapped yesterday, and she was my top artist of the year, but I was only in her top 2% of listeners.
Yeah, listen, there's
So
bad
I've
blood
got
here.
room to grow.
There's bad blood here. A lot of
Wow.
bad blood. You will not be speaking with any London boys anytime soon. The fairy tale love story, Romeo Juliet. other Taylor Swift reference. Anyway, the point is that you should feel very, very bad about what you have done to the Swiftie community. And I, for one, accept my responsibility in this part. I also put the podcast out without fact checking with the Swifties, which is something that we should have done. Frankly, it's unfortunate that we did not do that. And here's my defense, or here's my defense of Lorraine, because I have no defense here. It's not my role. You know what I mean? Like, it's not I surely shouldn't be blamed. The fact that I'm even taking on some of the blame it's quite admirable, really. I mean, the Swifties should probably embrace that and see me as something of an anti-hero, if you will. But here's the thing. Lorraine is so much a Swiftie. She only looks for the deep cuts. The surface level stuff, she's not on the surface. No. She's not floating up here. You know, she's not in that top, you know, not even, it's not top tier in terms of like, you know, references here. It's just like, it's the stuff that everybody gets. No, she's about the deep cuts. She's looking deep. She wasn't expecting there to be something for the average Joe or Jane on the streets, mind you. She was actually looking for those deep cuts. She was doing the work for you, Swifties. So really consider that in your weight of whether or not she should still be seen as one of you. And as you work to restore your credit, your Swiftie credit, Lorraine, I just want you to know that the Loki community will always be here for you and supporting you every step of the way.
Thank you.
And I would have worked a lot more Taylor Swift references into that spiel, but I don't know enough to do that. So that's what you got.
Well, hopefully y'all will all just let me get away in a getaway car.
There it is. Good job. We got it. All right. Well, there you go. So there's your Taylor watch up front. We actually do have a few things that we wanted to talk about. First of all, just the series as a whole. You know, as we've now had kind of some time to reflect on what's happened, and there's been, you know, like, I think overall we talked about this, but when you stick the landing, it goes a long way to solidifying a movie, a television series in kind of like very high regard. It could be like a very well executed series, but if you don't stick the landing in that finale, then it's just wasted on the mindset of the fan community. But if it's kind of a rocky on and off again, but then you end up sticking the landing, it becomes this beloved and treasured thing. What was Loki? Was Loki like just nothing but straight bangers throughout, or was it a bit of a rocky road to get to one of the greatest finales in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Disney Plus universe?
I feel like season 2 is kind of a rocky road. I mean, I feel like a lot of things happened that we didn't really get wrapped up, and they were just kind of thrown in there to take us on a wild ride. But we don't really care because it did stick the landing so well. I haven't rewatched seasons 1 and 2 together. Have you gone through that process yet?
No, I've been wanting to. I'm kind of waiting so that my wife has the opportunity so I can binge it with her. We just recently got done binging the entirety of Downton Abbey, which, by the way, there will be a YouTube TV Talk YouTube video from me explaining why I think Downton Abbey was the best competitor that the MCU had they created the Downton Abbey cinematic universe. That's coming. So just as a putting that out there. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for that. But no, I have not had the opportunity to do that yet, but I plan on it.
Because I think it'd be interesting to go back and see how, because, you know, they had it all planned out from the beginning, right?
Clearly.
So it'd be interesting to go back and see all the things that are connected between seasons 1 and seasons 2.
It is interesting because I do feel as though when you've got something like that, where you've got kind of a clear vision of where you want to end up, it was clear that Loki wanted to create the concept of the Lokiverse, right? Like to turn the MCU in this multiversal, through this multiversal lens into what is kind of becoming the Lokiverse, which includes all of the different movies, television shows, or at least, you know, even if it's not, you know, like, for example, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. It might not be that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy exists in the Lokiverse. However, there's a Lokiverse like timeline where that where something very similar to that trilogy exists, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it might not be exact, but it's neighboring so close that it might as well count, so that we can get Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and pull him in. You know what I mean? And the various X-Men characters and the various, honestly, X-Men timelines that we've seen over the last 20 years. now exist within the Loki verse, one assumes. And I think that what we'll see with the upcoming Deadpool movie will really explore that concept. So they had this idea, like, how do we get Loki on the throne? How do we actually take him from this, failed conqueror to literal god of the universe, like our multiverse, I should say. In the midst of that, it's like, well, hey, what if we do like a weird corporate, cult-like entity of the TVA as kind of the bridge? And that's a weird bridge. You know what I mean? Like, to go from Avengers conqueror or failed conqueror Loki to god of the multiverse, it's just a really weird bridge. But I don't know, maybe because it's a weird bridge, it requires having kind of some weird steps along the way. Season 1 was tight. I think if you look at that season overall, it was a tight season. It got to where exactly it needed to go. It built up the tension. Every single bit of the episodes and the story we got was used. You know what I mean? There wasn't anything that was kind of like left on the field, left on the cutting room floor. It was all very much there. Whereas with season 2 got the reward of the big moment they were building to. And it got some very interesting moments. The first episode was extremely good quality. I mean, honestly, throughout, there's a lot of really quality episodes, but there's a little bit of a disjointedness to them. Miss Minutes wanting to be the girlfriend of Victor Timely was a little out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Unresolved. Like, the concept of like, hey, what if Miss Minutes is totally unhinged? Okay, cool. But then it's like, does she have a story, or is it just, here's Miss Minutes and she's totally unhinged? And the same is kind of true to Victor Timely, right? It's like, oh, what if the Victor Timely variant is kind of this, crazed, kind of weird, ultra nerdy version of He Who Remains? And, it has all this knowledge, but is also kind of a charlatan. And you're always kind of questioning whether or not he's legit or if he's just kind of, using somebody else's stuff. Okay, cool. But does he have a story? You know what I mean? Like, so all of these side characters, not to, you think about B-15 or Casey, have no stories. Like, you know what I mean? Like, despite this idea that at the end of the series, Loki became what a lot of the fans, not me personally, but a lot of the fans have kind of put on him as the god of stories to connect with the version from the comics. For that being the case, this series was really, or at least season 2 anyway, was honestly just Loki's story. Sylvie doesn't really have a story in this. Mobius doesn't really have a story in this. Casey, B-15, Ouroboros, like, all of them don't really have their own critical arcs. I mean, don't get me wrong. You could sit back and do a little digging, and I'm sure, yes, you can piece kind of some components into arcs. But compared to really what Loki's arc was, they don't really have that. And I'll add this too. We are introduced throughout this season to in season 2, not only are we given a bunch of characters that don't really have fully realized stories or arcs, but we're also introduced to new characters who have absolutely, they might actually have a little bit of an arc, but it feels kind of so wasted. With X-23 or whatever dude's name was, Brad. What was Brad's? X5, was it?
I think so.
Yeah. So, like, Brad, we're introduced to Brad, and he's just another hunter, and he wants to be on the timeline, but then they get him back, and then he sides with Renslayer, but then Renslayer's gone, and then we don't, what even is Brad? You know what I mean? Like, he's had an entire episode dedicated to him, and yet we don't know much about him. We don't know where he ended up. Frankly, we don't care, because I don't think anybody was really like going hard for, let's make sure that we really follow where Brad's going. So, I don't know. It was just a little bizarre at the end of it.
Do you think there's any characters from season 2 that we'll see again, and their purpose was just setting up this is the character that you'll see again? Like, is Miss Minutes going to come out with Kang in the future?
I would be shocked if we did not see Miss Minutes again in the future. I think, and we'll get to some of the news here in just a moment, but I think that given that the creative teams behind seasons 1 and 2 will be working on the Avengers film, it's crazy to me if we don't see Miss Minutes specifically, and obviously Renslayer. Those are kind of the two characters that are probably the most likely to pop back up as part of the, the multiversal saga conclusion. We may very well see with, a lot of the rumors about Doctor Doom taking more of a central role as opposed to Kang. It's possible that Renslayer will then facilitate whatever Kang would have been from, just kind of piecing into that story to set up Doctor Doom as opposed to setting up a Kang. She could betray him. I mean, like, who knows? We'll have to kind of see where it goes. But yeah, no, I would say that Miss Minutes is definitely coming back. Same thing with Renslayer. X5 and Renegade Judge Lady. That's definitely not Sylvie, and I was totally wrong on that theory. That was a wrong stab in the dark. If I had to put money on it, those characters felt like we're setting something up for Deadpool. You know what I mean? Like, because we know that Deadpool's going to be very TVA focused in some regards, or at least it's going to have a large, the TVA is going to play a large role in Deadpool 3. And we know that Mobius.
How do we know that? I didn't know that.
Oh, did you not?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Spoilers for Deadpool.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that. How do you feel about over the top comedic violence?
I don't like violence. I don't like gore at all. I can't watch like Game of Thrones or anything like that. Logan for me, woo, I would not watch that again.
Oh man.
But I like Deadpool. I think it's funny.
Okay, so you have seen Deadpool.
Yeah, I've seen both Deadpools.
Okay, then So at the end of Deadpool 2, he gets the time thing and he goes around, he's jumping around the timeline. It's like the post-credit scene, okay? Like he gets it, he saves his wife, and he's like, we're definitely naming our kids Cher, and then he uses the thing, and then he goes back in time, and he stops Ryan Reynolds from becoming Green Lantern, and then he goes and he kills an old variant of Wolverine that was not popular, and then he has baby Hitler, and he's trying to figure out what to do with baby Hitler. So the idea is that after Deadpool 2, he's going around and he's using the time thing, and he's messing up all these timelines, which is exactly the kind of thing the TVA would want a word about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe the concept is that Mobius will be, I don't know if the TVA is going to recruit Deadpool to help eradicate some fringe timelines. That's been a theory. Or if it's because of his actions, the TVA is hunting him down to make him a variant. You know what I mean? And we'll end up kind of putting him in the main Marvel universe when it's all said and done, or the sacred timeline, shall we say. So yeah, I think it's going to be, I think the Deadpool 3 movie seems to be a lot of, how do we incorporate a lot of these Fox X-Men movies into the MCU? And the TVA, once again, is that bridge to get us there. And so yeah, Mobius will be very much in Deadpool 3. And I have a feeling that Renegade Judge, who feels like she can be played for laughs as kind of an over-the-top, Snidely Whiplash type, would make sense. And then Brad, who just seems to have like a very kind of, punchable type of energy, you know what I mean? Like would be a very good foil for Deadpool.
Yeah,
so I
can see that.
Throughout the season, they felt like additions that were there not for season 2 of Loki, but for Deadpool specifically.
Yes. Well, now I'm extra excited for Deadpool because I didn't know anything. I just knew there's going to be another movie. So, yay. Yeah. And Wolverine's going to be in it.
Oh, man. So maybe Loki TV Talk will become TVA TV Talk. TVA Talk.
Wow.
Yes.
Loki TVA Talk.
We might have to come back for Deadpool then. That sounds good. But you know what? Hey, I referenced it, and let's talk about it. So the showrunners for season 1 and 2 are on Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Now, it's no new news that the first that Michael Walden, who's the showrunner for season 1, was already going to be working on Secret Wars. However, now he's been moved to Kang Dynasty as well. Along with that, it was just recently announced a couple of hours ago that Eric Martin, who is the head writer for season 2, will also be in the writer's room for these Avengers movies as well. It's notable because to me, this feels very similar to what they did with the first 3 phases of the Infinity Saga on Marvel, because of course the Russo brothers, who did quite well with Winter Soldier and, was kind of really touted as a big, and if I'm remembering correctly, with Civil War. After Civil War, I think that's when they were about the times that they were working on Civil War. They were given the green light and kind of tapped to be the ones to bring us Infinity Saga or Infinity War as well as Endgame, because they were able to manage these various characters and their plot lines, their arcs very, very well. Here we've got a multiversal, a time traveling multiversal story that has worked really solid, and as we mentioned already, stuck the landing. Is it as tight as some of the things we've seen the Russo brothers do? I would argue no. But nothing post Endgame has been as tight as what the Russo brothers have done, except for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And as we all know, James Gunn is not coming back. He came back to finish the work, and he is done with Marvel. So he's gone. But that's okay. I think that all things considered, if you look at what the post-Endgame MCU has been, this seems to be the best possible move for them. But I don't know. What do you think, Lorraine? Do you think they'll be able to pull it off?
I have lots of faith. I like what I've seen so far, so they seem to have a good direction, and I'm excited. I was pleased to hear the news.
It does seem like they are. I mean, as been mentioned before, that if given the commitment to Loki and kind of to the Loki creative team, it helps build off of what has been one of the most popular corners of the franchise right now, and will hopefully play more and more into that for this big, wrap up of, I mean, what's been a little bit of a rough era. I mean, the reality is the showrunner for season 1 of Loki, while season 1 was incredible, he also wrote Multiverse of Madness, which frankly was not my favorite, but I don't know. What were your thoughts on that one?
Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
Honestly, I get it.
Madness.
I always get it confused with Quantumania.
Oof.
I think it's I know. I think it's because they're both movies I was like really excited about, and then I was a little disappointed by. Yeah, I think just the title Multiverse of Madness made me think like this is going to be the best movie I've ever seen. And then it was like Wanda, and I don't know.
It was so unfortunate because WandaVision was so good. And then they just, and like I've said this before, but I have no problem with Wanda being a villain. She's a villain in the comics. She's been both villain and hero. So I have no problem with her going the villainous arc. But it was, you mentioned Game of Thrones earlier. It was very Dany at the end of Game of Thrones, where like, sure, like she's been through a lot, but she's going to go this evil, this quick, kind of out of nowhere. Like this feels out of nowhere. Like, it's not that we can't get behind her as like a big villain, but I don't know. I mean, at the same time, she was a villain in WandaVision, but the way in which we as an audience are encouraged to view her story is with sympathy in WandaVision, and then we're immediately told to stop doing that in Multiverse of Madness. And that's too jarring for an audience. Even if you can make the argument that she was on that villainous path and this is the direct continuation and the Darkhold and everything else, fine. But we as an audience weren't brought along with that path. And it's a relationship between the viewer and the story. But yeah, so I don't know. I just don't know. That's the one thing when I read that I was like, oh, really? Multiverse of Madness? I mean, it's not the worst of the MCU movies lately, but it's certainly not the ones that one of the ones that gives me the most confidence.
Was that one that was a victim of COVID? Like they had to do some rewrites, some timeline moving around.
Yeah,
it was not really supposed to be Wanda as the villain.
This entire era of films that we're still in are victims of COVID. So I'm of the mindset that the sooner we wrap up the multiversal saga, the better, because we kind of do need like a fresh start, and with new movies and new ideas and new takes on things, and even like if you reimagine some of these characters, let's reimagine some of these characters. It's not fair that like you got Chris Evans over here and he's having to constantly maintain some sort of Captain America physique just in case he needs a payday. Like we need to just go ahead and get a new Captain America so the man can have a cheeseburger. That's all I want. I just want Chris Evans to have a cheeseburger.
He just got married.
Oh, did he really?
He did.
See, look at you with the celebrity gossip. Who do you marry?
Alba Baptista.
Okay. Who is?
I don't know, but that's who he married. I
All
think they got
right.
married on like Cape Cod.
Wait, Baptista, isn't that the guy that plays Drax?
Uh,
Drax the Destroyer? Isn't his last name Baptista?
oh,
Wait, is it
maybe?
his sister? Wait, is it him? Wait, hang on.
No.
Drax. That'd be
quick,
amazing.
quick Google.
Quick Google. Quick to the Google.
Alba Baptista is Portuguese.
Okay. I do not know the ethnicity of Drax the Destroyer. Or the actor that plays him, for that matter.
His
Which, by the
name
way, while we're
is-
Googling, this is just your public service announcement. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is one of the best MCU movies ever. You need to watch it if you've not done so.
But you
already.
need to bring your tissues.
It's a tearjerker. I've seen it 3 times. It's so good.
It's rough for me. I don't know. It's so sad.
It is, but and don't get me wrong. Normally, I don't like sad movies, but I connected with it so much.
It's a really good movie, I will say. I really didn't have any notes other than wow, I wish thankfully you warned me ahead of time that it was gonna be that way. Otherwise I would have been really devastated. But it was a good movie.
All right, so what do we got? Baptista, the new Mrs. Evans.
Dave Bautista. They are not related.
Oh, okay. Wait, because of one letter?
Yeah, hers is Baptista. His is Bautista.
They could be cousins. Anyway, I'm just kidding. That's not how spelling works. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
All right, last bit of news, and then we'll wrap it up here. But this kind of broke my heart a little bit. So we're here in the middle of the holiday season, and in recent years, Marvel started doing their Marvel Presents with the Werewolf by Night, and then also the greatest Christmas special of all time, the Guardians Christmas special. And they've just announced they're not going to do that anymore. And I got to tell you, I do understand the desire to cut back content, and that's been there's been some fan pressure on them to do that kind of thing. But I would have cut back some other things and kept more of these Marvel Presents because they've been delightful.
I never watched Werewolf by Night, but I really liked the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and the music was great.
The great thing about Werewolf by Night is that it exists in the MCU and it uses Marvel characters, but it's unnecessary. It's connected, but not connected, if that makes sense.
I think that's maybe why I didn't watch it, because it seems like it was entertainment only, and I wanted to
stay connected,
push the story ahead. And I heard that Guardians of the Galaxy was maybe important, like the holiday one. It maybe told you a little bit you needed to know.
And it did.
And I watched it for that reason. So I don't like to just be entertained. I also
you want the homework assignment.
Exactly.
No,
and I'm glad, because it was really good.
I mean, to be fair, if you think about when Werewolf by Night came out, there was still that mindset of the homework assignment and trying to make sure that you're checking all the boxes that you have to, and so you have to prioritize certain things. I get that, but I do also think that in the post Kang Dynasty, I think people are going to want to go to more they can exist in the same universe, but they don't have to be building towards the same story. And I think that, and which I would be kind of nice to some extent, that you'd be able to be a little bit more pick and choosy, and that way you wouldn't have. I think that Marvel has tried over this past era to diversify its content with a goal of bringing in new audiences. And I think that's a good thing. But I think the problem is when you tell the existing audience that, by the way, this is also required viewing for you, but it's also not necessarily made for you. And you communicate that in a way that's going to put them off. It's not the best way to manage your brand. I think you can still have these separate movies and separate kind of with their own personal goals that don't have to communicate this larger story that works out really, really well and can be, a crossover hit that everybody enjoys. I think it's just the general homework assignment nature of it. We as an audience over the last 20 years, I think I'm a little burned out by that. So something like Werewolf by Night, which admittedly does communicate more to, if you're more of a kind of a pulp horror genre type person, which admittedly I'm typically not, but I still found it really fun for a Halloween movie. It wasn't overly gory or anything like that. It was all black and white, so that kind of made it more fun and kind of the era. And then at the end of the day, they bring in a character from the comics that I never thought they would actually bring in to the MCU, and a kind of a fun way that doesn't necessarily matter, and that's okay. So yeah, I was a fan of the Marvel Presents. R.I.P. We'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, I'm still of the like my I'm glad I watched What If, but I'm like always trying to bring in more What If because I'm like there has to be a reason that I watched What If because it's also so like I don't know, dramatic
It's
and it's
fun.
kind of
What If was
disturbing.
amazing.
The zombie one, it's so disturbing.
Okay, that one was not. The zombie one was fun.
Doctor
The disturbing
Strange
one was. I was
in a
about to say
bubble.
Doctor Strange. Yes, that was disturbing. Yes.
I think I had some weird dreams after that one. I'm like, there has to be a reason I had those weird dreams. Like, we've got to bring in the Watcher. Like, we have to, and something else. So I'm like, season 2, it's got to have. Maybe they'll do a TVA episode. Honestly, if we're talking about just entertainment value, I love all the stuff at the TVA.
That was great.
So
no, I mean, like, more TVA. I think it's great that by the end of this, we were able to figure out a way to keep the TVA in the picture while also, you know, making the fascist cult into like a cool fascist cult. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not a regular fascist cult.
Yeah.
I'm a cool fascist cult.
Exactly. Good on them.
Mean
suppose.
Girls, the TVA. There's a crossover.
Yeah. I'd pay money for that. Well, there you go. That's our epilogue episode for the Loki season 2. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, crew of Loki, by the way, little fun things to show off. We got our throws together. We started working on them over the holiday, and so if you'll be coming down to New Orleans for Chewbacca's, be sure to look out for the crew of Loki, and we will hook you up. Like call out Loki TV Talk. If we hear Loki TV Talk when we're making sure you get in one.
Oh yeah.
Also, I also have the gold horns, but they're drying right now, so they're
Awesome.
But yeah,
I didn't know they had come in already. That's awesome.
yes. But anyway, that is going to do it for us for today and for all time and all that kind of good stuff. We hope that you've enjoyed this series. If you would like more from us, let us know. Of course, as I mentioned before, be sure to check out the TV Talk YouTube channel. There's also the TV Talk podcast. It's the larger podcast. If you go to tvtalk.fm, that's going to have your links there that you have for all that good stuff. That's going to do it for us for today. But until next time.
For all time, always.